Welcome to this introduction video for the fibre challenge. This is an introduction video not to miss. We are going to get stuck straight into the basics of fibre. These are the questions that everybody asks. So listen up, it's going to be great. Now, if you notice someone in the comments or in the challenge asking questions that we've covered in this introduction video, we're going to know they haven't watched it. So let's just cheekily comment #intro-challenge. Okay, guys, you with me on that? All right. Now, Kirsty, you're in the hot seat. So
Yes.
I'm going to fire some questions at you.
Yeah.
And I know that your knowledge far surpasses the amount of time that we have to talk about each of these. So we're just going to keep it pretty short and basic.
Yeah.
So to start with, what is fibre?
Okay, so fibre is the indigestible part of the plant or the fruits or the vegetables or the grains, so that indigestible part that we consume that supports our digestion and obviously our microbiome and so much of our health. So it's as simple as that.
Okay, great. And where do we find it?
Okay, so you can find fibre in all plant foods. You can find it in grains, in nuts, seeds, vegetables, fruit. So whole foods, which is why she's so on about whole foods all the time. So in whole foods, and obviously don't be swayed by packaging that says, this amount of fibre and this amount of fibre. It has got to be in whole foods in a complete form, because it all interacts to work as that complete form.
Okay, and I should follow that question by saying, where do we not find fibre?
Yes, so we won't find fibre in protein, we won't find it in fat. So when we look at those major micronutrients and macronutrients in our diet, certainly not in the proteins or in our fat content in our diet.
So no dairy?
No dairy. Yeah.
Not in meat. Okay. Yeah. All right. And so how much fibre do we need? This is a big question. How much fibre do we need?
So a lot more than you're probably eating and a lot more than you think. So we really want to shoot for the stars, and you start having fibre, you go low and slow because it's making a huge change to your body and your microbiome, but you really want to be shooting for well above 35 grams of that beautiful fibre a day. And here we are in a challenge, and I can challenge all of you that you're probably not getting that. But we do want to be able to get a robust amount of fibre in our day, every day, consistently, and that also is the key.
Now, dare I ask, how much is a typical person in the population consuming? Now, I don't know whether we've got Australian figures with us, but the last I heard of the American diet, people typically consume around 10 to 15 grams.
Yeah.
So that's not even half of what we need.
No.
Okay.
And, in that sort of classic typical diet, most people are only getting their fibre from one source, and there are so many different types of fibres and resistant starches, which we'll go into, but you've got to get your fibre from a variety of whole foods, and that is a key to making sure that when you're looking and aiming for that above 35 grams, it's not just your psyllium husk or one thing.
Yeah, I know Kirsty's coined basically the phrase diversity for our gut and how it's so important, and I'm sure we're going to delve into that in the coming videos. But people often hear about soluble and insoluble fibre. What are they?
What's the deal? Okay. So obviously soluble is when it's water soluble, so it attracts water to that food and attracts water into the colon. So that's the soluble. The insoluble fibre is when it's not absorbed into the water. It bypasses that whole process. So you want a lot of beautiful amount of water, and you want all of that moisture going into that bowel because it helps with transit time, it supports elimination. But you also need that insoluble fibre in there as well because it helps to push things along. But if you don't have enough hydration in your colon, then you're going to have some issues there. So, and once again, you want a combination of both of that soluble and insoluble. So just think water when you're thinking about those two different types of fibre.
Okay. And so would it be amiss of us to get too hung up on figuring out which type of fibre a certain food has?
Yeah. So absolutely, we can't sort of drill it down and, get, into the percentages each day because number one, we are an amazing human and we've got all this incredible DNA, but we also have this amazing microbial community that really makes up who we are. And we need all sorts of fibre to be able to support that microbial community. And depending on your unique footprint of what your microbial community is, you can't just pick and choose your fibre and try and get the percentages and pop it into an app and all those sorts of things. The aim really is whole foods, a diversity of foods, like 20 to 40 different types of fibre in 1 week, and 200 different types of diversity of food in a year. So you just go whole foods, and all of that confusion just leaves. It's just not an issue anymore.
And I guess a really good example of that would be a common apple, right?
Yeah.
So an apple is a great snack to have, and it's half soluble, half insoluble. So that's a good example of how you do get both fibres when you just eat whole foods, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the peel, and you've got so much of that apple. And if you're anything like my father, you eat all the seeds as well. So, there's just such a variety of just one thing in that beautiful apple.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so last question. We hear about prebiotic fibres, we hear about resistant starch.
Yeah.
I know we're going to talk a bit about resistant starches this week, but can you give us a bit of a snapshot about what that means?
Okay. So resistant starch means that it resists digestion. So obviously we have this incredible digestive system that I know you're thinking about every single day when you eat, but we have this incredible digestive system that just works wonders, and it starts in the brain and obviously ends out the other end. But with resistant starch, it resists digestion. So it actually forms these incredible starch molecules that our body doesn't digest during the digestive process. That food, whatever you're eating that's got the resistant starch in there, maybe some cooked and cooled, sweet potato, it hits the colon, and then because it has resisted that whole digestive process, it goes down and then is the most incredible food for our bacteria and acts as a prebiotic or a fertilizer to help to grow those beautiful bacteria in your gut, and then they multiply. So it's literally going around just, putting the fertilizer on the lawn. So you need lots of that. We want our microbial community to be thriving, flourishing, multiplying, and of course creating that diversity.
Just amazing. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah,
I just find it just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving us that rundown of the basics. And now we've got
very basic. Yeah.
Now we can head on into our 10-day challenge, knowing that we're now going to get into some of those really meaty superpowers of those fibres that we're talking about. If you have questions on these basics, feel free to comment in this post, and we'll be more than happy to help you out, and then of course with the live Q&A at the end as well.
Because just one thing on that, we call them basics, but I tell you, before I started learning all about this, it was not basic to me. I was like, what is a resistant starch? What is soluble? What is insoluble? So I know there are lots of people that these are new words, and that's the whole point of us being here. We're super excited to help you to understand these words and make them everyday words in your family.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
My
and
pleasure.
We'll see you in video 1.
Awesome.